What would it be like if Super Mario 64 came out on the PS1 instead of the N64? Imagine a world where among Crash and Spyro, Super Mario 64 could be one of your favorite PlayStation 1 games. Believe it or not, this alternate universe came surprisingly close to happening. And even weirder, if this were the case, then the PlayStation line would have been the next big Nintendo console of all. So right now, you're probably either really confused, or you just realized that if this happened, we'd finally get Persona on the Switch. And also Crash and Smash. Jesus, we really are on the worst timeline, huh? But in this video, we'll be focusing on what exactly a Super Mario PlayStation release would have been like by modding the game a little bit to replicate PlayStation graphics and seeing what content could have been added. Hey everybody, I'm Flash, and today we're creating the forbidden crossover and seeing what works and what doesn't. But first, if you're new to the channel and you enjoy the video, make sure you subscribe for more like it every week or so. With that out of the way, let's put Mario 64 on the PlayStation. That introduction probably raised a lot more questions than it answered, specifically about the Nintendo PlayStation, which sadly wasn't actually called the Nintendo PlayStation, but instead the Super NES CD-ROM system, or the SNES CD-RS for short. This NES would have been Mario's original 3D debut had it existed, so to get an idea how this would have happened, we need to know exactly what happened to the system. Sometime before the PlayStation existed, Sony was looking for a way to enter the gaming market. First, they tried to make a VCR player with some buttons, and they made a Wheel of Fortune game, and before they could add any more fuel to that dumpster fire plan, they were like, hey, let's work with Nintendo, who with open arms decided to work on a CD-ROM attachment for the SNES, to which Sony could make in their very own standalone console. I'll keep the details brief, but one thing led to another, and in the end, a day after revealing the partnership to the public, Nintendo pulled out of the deal, realizing, wow, we almost just created an unbeatable rival. That was close. And then, 3 years later, Sony announced the PlayStation, to which Nintendo responded, oh shit! With one of the most powerful entities to arise in console gaming with some of the most advanced 3D graphics of the time, Nintendo revealed their counterattack, which would change the console wars forever. And the rest from there pretty much leads us to now. Had this partnership actually gone through, it's pretty likely that a Super Mario 64 release would have actually been Super Mario PlayStation 1 instead. A Super Mario PlayStation release would have probably looked something along the lines of this. I did my best using some shader mods to replicate the graphical style of the PlayStation, with worse anti-aliasing and more unfiltered textures. The graphics would have looked like this because while the Nintendo 64 mainly relied on Garand shading, which simply applied a color to each point on a try, the PS1 was able to utilize texture mapping, leading to more precise environments and characters. This graphical difference is mainly due to the difference in storage for N64 cartridges and PlayStation CD-ROMs. N64 storage was tiny, just holding up to 64 megabytes for one game, but the load times were near non-existent because of the fast transfer speeds. While PS1 discs could hold up to 750 megabytes, they had way slower transfer speeds, so you could essentially get more detailed and higher quality textures, higher quality music, better models, and more content for the price of speed and gameplay flow. For Mario 64, this means that the textures would have been a little more pixely, and instead of just being able to jump into a painting instantly, there probably would have been a lengthy load in between worlds, maybe even from the inside of the castle to the outside, which would have really sucked. However, this would have also allowed Mario 64 to have higher quality music, and for way more content to have been included, meaning that we might have been able to have a few more worlds to explore, or even a multiplayer function if you want to stretch it out a little. But one important thing you have to keep in mind is that the Nintendo 64's controller had like 5 trillion buttons. I mean, yeah, it did look like this, but it had a lot of buttons. The original PlayStation controller, well, didn't have much in comparison. Yeah, the DualShock did come out sometime later, but if we're talking original launch, some of the features from Mario 64, heck, any Nintendo 64 game would have been impossible. Thankfully, the only thing that got messed up for this game were the camera controls, which can easily be ignored, but the movement just sucks. You would never notice just how well that analog stick lets you control Mario until you're stuck with this D-pad. It was pretty jarring to just have 8 directional controls in such an open game, and without a dead zone, sneaking around these piranha plants is not gonna happen, because you can pretty much only run, jump, or stand still. At the end of it all though, it's most likely a good thing that Mario 64 ended up being Mario 64 and not Mario PS1, but it's still pretty interesting to see what things could have been like. Also, can we just appreciate how Sega was lacking so much that Nintendo just straight up made their own rival in its place? Like, that's probably a bigger drip than putting Xbox Live on the Switch. Either way, those are my thoughts on a Mario 64 port for the PlayStation 1. Thanks for watching. And that is all for today's video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to drop a like down below, as it really supports the channel and it just means a lot. Or in the comments, you could suggest another impossible gaming crossover that you'd like to see. And as always, for more videos like this one every week, don't forget to smash that squish red subscribe button and enable notifications so you won't miss a single upload. With that all being said, once again, thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, I'll be back in a flash.